Somehow I skipped 10.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Rolling, brah.
Fratelloni's Hardware and Garden Stores brings you Garage Logic Podcast number 1281, March 22nd, 2024. 71 degrees on this day in 1945, 14 below on this day in 1888. And on this day,
March 22nd,
1952, 14 inches of snow.
Hail the flashlight king.
And now, from the mayor's office above the boathouse on the east shore of Spoon Lake, it's Garage Logic with Chris Reavers manning Technology Corner, Kenny Olson from the Krabby Coffee Shop, John Heidt in the newsroom, and of course, the rookie. Here is your flashlight king, fireworks commissioner, and the keeper of common sense, your mayor, Joe Sushiro.
Mark from Chippewa Falls has done the Lord's work. The podcast count was correct through last Friday, March 15th at 1266. Then the mayor started this week at 1277. I missed 10 years, didn't I? I mean, 10 shows. Monday was 1267. Tuesday was 1268. Wednesday was 1269. Yesterday was 1270. And today is 1271, not 1281. All right. I'm going to put down 1271. Thank you, sir. You're from Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. Thank you very much. Was Chippewa Falls where Diane Keaton had to go home in Annie Hall? Did they live in Chippewa Falls? I think it was.
I love Annie Hall, but I can't recall that.
And
Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Christopher Walken was her brother.
Yeah.
Who was completely nuts. I think, and they had the dinner table. And they were,
Lobster?
Yeah, it was one of the scenes.
Where he threw the butt, something was under the
But
kitchen.
I'm talking about Chippewa Falls. I think it was Chippewa
It
Falls.
is Chippewa Falls. I just looked it up.
Thank you very much. Is Mark Garofalo with us?
Well, Pat.
I mean,
I don't
is
think
Pat-
Mark was available
Well, that's
today.
his brother, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, Pat Garofalo, state representative. How are you?
Oh, I'm just peachy, sir. How about you?
Two things. You notified the show about the poor math ability of the Minneapolis City Council as it refers to their ordinances they keep trying to create for ride share. You want to illuminate that for us?
Well, I just, as I think as everyone knows now, Uber and Lyft are slated to shut down May 1st.
Right.
And it's because of this silly city council ordinance that they enacted. And the specifics of this are that they're mandating that an Uber driver would get $1.40 for every mile they drive and 51 cents for every minute they drive. So you kind of do the math on that. If they do 4 fares for 15 minutes each, 10 miles each, I mean, just kind of just do the math. It doesn't work out. It destroys demand. Not only that, if it didn't destroy demand, hell, I'd quit my job and I just go start driving Uber for that sort of money.
It's about $50, isn't it? I mean,
it's way more than that. It's insane. And we're not, again, I understand reasonable people can debate the proper role of government and whatever, but is it so bad that the DFL is this bad at math?
Yeah.
Is it reached the level that they simply deny basic mathematics?
Yes.
All right. Well, there's our answer. There we go.
All right. Why did they get into it in the first place? It's not their job to set salaries for private employees.
Well, independent contractors, too.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing about it. So, astute listeners of your program will remember that when I was on the show in May, and we talked about this issue, I started laughing, saying that there's no way walls, because remember the DFL legislature passed a law to essentially do the same thing. There were some differences, but it was to make the program uneconomical. And I said, there's no way this can become law. Walls has to veto it.
Right.
Which he did, right? Because there was no other alternative. It was just going to be a complete disaster.
Right.
Well, now the Minneapolis City Council, I can only assume after a fresh night of drinking, decided that they wanted to do this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it is is bonkers. It is beyond, like, as dumb, as foolish as mistakes are that we see happening in the state of Minnesota with our public policy. This truly defies description. I mean, you could sit down with a fourth grader and they could understand why this is a bad idea, but the DFL can't figure it out. It's just brutal.
Another thing that intrigues me, from your perch in the House of Representatives, is this state starting to get a bad rap nationally?
Well, it's it's not as good as it used to be, right? I mean, this is brand damage,
right?
Like, so people who don't live in Minnesota, who aren't here all the time, you know, what are the first things they think about when it comes to Minnesota? You know, it used to be like Prince and Kirby Puckett
or
and
fish,
or
the mall,
fishing, or nice parks, clean air, quality of life. Now it's riots, lunacy, and a failure to understand math.
Right.
I mean, like, when you have national publications writing editorials mocking your state for taking what is an essential service out, knocking it offline,
right?
It makes no sense. I mean, does any one of your listeners think it's a good idea to go back to the way we had with taxi cabs?
No.
Where they had inefficient, expensive service delivery, right? No one wants to go backwards. Yet that's exactly what we're seeing from the DFL, and there's inability to understand basic math. It is, and your listeners know this. Can you tell, by the way, that Chris put a quarter in me before we got on?
What happened?
But like there are record numbers of insane people in both political parties.
Mm-hmm.
This is why you need divided government. At the federal level and at the state of Minnesota, you cannot have one party in total control, or else you get a roadside car fire like this.
This is what we're having. You have intimated, I believe, to Reavers. I don't know why he would not have been able to handle that, but you intimated to Reavers that Walz is triangulating. What do you mean by that?
Well, what has happened now, and you see this on a host of issues, is the DFL has reached the breaking point. They have continued tacting farther and farther left, more and more crazy. So remember, last year they increased the budget to $70 billion, 36.5% increase. Now we're shocked that next year's budget is going to be upside down. Shocked, totally shocked that you can't maintain that. So he's saying, hey, we can't spend any more money right now. So he's moving himself away from the progressive base, the left-wing base. Then on Uber, he's pushing himself away from the left-wing base, saying, hey, you know, we've got to fix this. Now, of course, his primary objective is, if this blows up on May 1st, he doesn't want his fingerprints by it.
Right.
So he's pushing himself away from that. And then finally, you see with this, you know, Mary Moriarty in Hennepin County, completely irresponsibly charging the state trooper for his appropriate use of deadly force.
That's right.
You see him now distancing himself away from that because he can take that case away from her and send it to the attorney general.
Right.
And so you see on these issues that even the DFL has gotten too crazy, even for Tim Walz.
That's right.
And that's where things are going. And I'd love to have some good news at the end and say, hey, you know, they've seen the error of their ways, and it's an election year, so they're going to be pragmatic. Nope, that's not where we are.
No.
So.
It's always fun to talk to you. And,
I can't thank you enough for all the great news.
Right. Come on in one of these days. We'll make that happen.
Absolutely. You guys have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Yep.
Pat Garofalo.
I did put a quarter in him a little bit.
When I said you can't handle that, I was being facetious.
No, I know.
I was giving you some grief.
I know.
But he mentioned Mary Moriarty. Did you see now where our state lawmakers in Congress, in a bipartisan way, are calling for her to take her mitts off the Londrigan case?
Yeah.
And we get a pretty good quote here from, who's the quote from? Pete Stauber. Republican U.S. Representatives Tom Emmer, Michelle Fischbach, Pete Stauber, and Brad Finstad sent a letter to Walz Wednesday demanding the case be removed from Moriarty's office. They also said they asked the House Judiciary Committee to investigate the matter. Quote, Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty has weaponized her position against law enforcement, they said. She ignored an independent use of force expert chosen by her own office, who stated that Trooper Lundgren acted as a reasonable officer would have. And I think it's gotten to the point where what is the point of her even being in that office? Because if it comes to law enforcement, to maintain a civil society, you're going to have to take every case away from her. She has but she told us that. Not in so many words, but she said, this is where I'm coming from. And here she comes, and she's charging this state trooper who did his job. Mm-hmm. And now they want the case taken from her. And it will be. It has to be. She can't continue this nonsense. We're back to yesterday's question. And Kenny's answer is both. Is she part of an organized effort in this country to destroy the culture of law and order? Or is she driven by a deep, possibly planted as a child, ideology?
Or I came up with a third one overnight. Yeah. Is she simply trying to prevent another riot?
I do not think that's what she's up to. I don't give her any credit for altruism. I don't see that in her makeup. I don't see that.
The people that are requesting that this be put in Ellison's lap, though, do they realize that then Ellison is going to be both prosecuting and defending the trooper?
And he can't, because that's a conflict of interest.
Right.
Because the state troopers are under his heading. It's just a mess. It should go away today. It should just, Moriarty should pick up the phone, call the defense and say, you know what? Never mind. It's over. There's going to be nothing.
Well, okay, but if she does that, and maybe he does anyway.
She won't do that.
I know she won't, but if she does that, what type of lawsuit are we talking about then?
I don't necessarily know there would be a lawsuit.
For defamation? You don't think so?
Well, I don't know that. I don't care about that. That's not what's in play here. What's in play here is this preposterous charging of him for doing his job. If you want to worry about the lawsuit, let's wait till that happens. I can only take things one step at a time.
Okay.
When are you leaving? Are you leaving today?
Boy, am I. Sorry.
How is everybody?
Great.
You're right. The only answer here is the cleanest thing that could possibly be done is her dropping it.
Just drop it.
Just drop it.
Mary, you're wrong. Do you have the ability to say that to the public? You blew it.
Because taking it out of her hands, it's still going to be messy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Moriarty initially said the expert's opinion would be crucial in deciding whether to charge the trooper, but she stopped working with the expert and later charged Lundgren with second-degree murder, manslaughter, and first-degree assault. Mary, you blew it. You got a young state trooper going by the book, and you want to throw that book at him. Not that book. You want to throw your book at him. It's pathetic. The state is pathetic. I like what Garofalo said. We probably did in Minnesota have a brand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a pretty good brand. I mean, going back to when Wendy Anderson held up the stringer of walleye on the cover of Time magazine, and I think the headline was "The State That Works." My God, it's not even recognizable now compared to that. The left is nuts. They're nuts.
Did you see who's backing Mary with all her might?
Ilhan bleeping Omar, who said, if you're not in Hennepin County, stay out of it.
Yeah.
Ilhan Omar, well, biggest mistake that 5th district ever made.
Ilhan, question for you. When is the last time you did something for Hennepin County?
Hell, just the 5th district.
Yeah.
I suppose that is all of Hennepin
Even
County.
Cedar Riverside, just an intersection. When did you do something for that intersection?
Yeah. It's just, I'm glad to hear people that might be considered more reasonable than us point out that our brand has really taken a beating. Whether it's the Mall of America, Prince, the Twins, fishing, Winter Wonderland, Land of 10,000 Lakes.
You betcha, and casseroles.
That's right. Hot dish. Hot dish with those crushed up potato chips in it.
Good old Minneapolis, responsible for half the country burning down in 2020.
Yeah.
Yay, us.
What a brand hit. And now let's turn to, is this Center of the American Experiment? I believe it is. Do you know how many people are leaving town?
Yeah.
Been there, done that.
Well,
I mean, leaving town, like going on vacation or like leaving.
There's a little more than 3 years between the date of the last census, April 1st, 2020, and July 1, 2023. Hennepin County lost a net 23,000 residents, even as the state overall posted a modest gain. So net domestic out-migration from Hennepin County was over 50,000 people, equivalent to a good-sized suburb, which was partly balanced by international migration from Somalia and other countries of 11,000 people. And that out-migration will only increase with a pro-crime county attorney in charge of law enforcement. As Bill points out, I believe that would be Bill Glahn, Ramsey County, home of St. Paul, is doing even worse as a percentage of its population. The larger blue counties of L.A., Cook County, Chicago, and New York City boroughs of Brooklyn and Queens lost even more. Of the 10 counties in America with the largest domestic inflows, 9 were in red states, Florida, South Carolina, and Texas. So the great sorting is dramatically reshaping life in America. Liberals face a serious problem. Their ability to achieve their goal of making our lives worse is limited by the fact that we can move. The Soviet Union dealt with this problem by devising a system of internal passports designed to keep people in place. But American liberals can't really do that, certainly not without amending the Constitution, to which I would add they have little regard for in the first place. So unlike residents of some totalitarian countries, Americans do retain the ability to vote with their feet, which might turn out to be the most important right of all. I think I just read that California is now charging people leaving the state an exit tax.
No way.
Come on.
Oh, God.
I think it's if you're
Verify that. John Heidt, would you verify that for me?
I looked this up a few weeks ago, and I think it's for residents of a certain income level, something I would not have to worry about.
So the richer you are, if you leave California, the more money they want from you?
That's what I remember.
B as in B?
Yeah.
Well, would that directly then apply to if you had a pretty significant business then too? Is that what they're targeting?
Yep, it would target that too. The California exit tax on individuals and businesses who decide to move out of California. If your annual income exceeds $30 million, you could be subject to the tax for up to 10 years after you leave.
That is insanity.
Of California. Holy moly.
Who woke up one day?
There's about 10 movie stars that would get hit with that.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
All moved. Yeah.
Moving away. Okay, thanks.
Well, Ma and Pa with the 2 kids in the 15-year-old minivan, if they're not going to be subject to a tax.
Not yet.
Not yet, no.